Last time, we dealt with the beginning foundations of a positive outlook. I would like to continue from there. So essentially, a positive outlook begins first and foremost by removing obstacles. And we said one of the first obstacles is knowing that we need to teach each other to understand each other's feelings, to progress. There is emotional education that we need to do with each other, which is part of communication, part of building. Another thing is to understand that a positive outlook is not an objective thing. Usually people think, what is a positive outlook? It depends on reality. I come home and the house is messy. What? A positive outlook? The house isn't messy? The house is messy. What to do? I hoped it wouldn't be messy, and it is messy. But the Talmud teaches us a great principle. What truly is a positive outlook? The Talmud says that in the world, in every event, there are two types of guests. There is a good guest and a bad guest. What does this mean? Two guests arrive at the event. The good guest looks at the event and says, wow, how much bread I ate, how many pastries I ate, how much wine I drank, how much effort the host put in. And all the effort the host made was just for me. Amazing. A bad guest. What does he say? The same thing, just in a different tone. How much bread I ate, how much wine I drank, how many pastries I ate, how much effort the host put in, and all the effort the host made was just for himself. Now, seemingly, these are two guests. One went to an event in a luxurious hall, and the other went to an event up in Kafr Qasim. However, the Gemara says, these are two guests at the same event. How can that be? Let's try to understand the psychological mindset of the good guest and the bad guest. Let's go to the most luxurious event. What is the most luxurious event hall? Nesia, right? That was it. I heard about it. I haven't been there. I once got married there. I like Havat Ronit as an example. I once got married there. What is it? More than Nesia. It's more than Nesia. Well, I got married at Havat Ronit. What an amazing event garden. There's a lake, and in the middle of the lake there's an island. And that's where the chuppah is, with ducks and horses and Agent Nolang. And in short, what can you say about such a place? Can you say it's not beautiful? This dish, from here until further notice. What will you say? However, Rabbi Kook explains this in Eina Yad. What is psychological psychology? The bad guest does not look at the event objectively. How does he look at the event? By the way, how do we even look? When I look at something, is that my perspective? Is this how I look and that's all there is? No. This image reaches my brain. It undergoes processing and it enters through the eyes into the brain. It works, it undergoes processing. It, by the way, flips and the brain transmits it to me. In other words, I only see something if it has undergone a processing process by the brain. Therefore, sometimes I can see something and actually not see it. A person is looking for, doesn't know what, a book, and the book is right in front of them, but they don't see it. Why? Because they transmitted to the brain, the book is read. And now they search, and search. The book is here, but they don't see it. And actually, both the good guest and the bad guest operate this way. And what does that mean? The bad guest arrives at the most prestigious event. There is, which objectively you can't say isn't amazing. But what? He now transfers this image into his brain and into his soul. And in his soul, he is a bad guest. Meaning, subconsciously, he asks himself, when would I have done such an event? Why would I do such an event? What am I, a sucker? I wouldn't do such an event. But one of the options. Or that he actually got it secondhand. It's not really the price. He didn't pay. It's his uncle who probably arranged something for him. It's last-minute tax evasion. And that's how he interprets everything. From this perspective, he looks, and the whole event becomes what? This is an event. Because he is essentially observing from within himself. Therefore, a good eye on something is not about what is really happening. Now, objectively. It's about my perspective from within my soul. I come home, and there's a mess. The house is upside down. There's nothing, everything is World War II. And now, seemingly objectively, what can I do? But the question is, what will be your starting point? In other words, what do you expect? Do you expect that you come home and the house should be spotless? Why? Or maybe you look at it from a different perspective. How wonderful. Surely the kids had fun. To the bath. All of it. Not a distortion of reality. The question is, what are you looking for? Reality. From what is within you. After all, what does the good guest do? Take the good guest, place him in the most shocking event, even in Calculated development. We were once in some kind of low-grade hall, a family event, and one of the cousins made a clever remark that in this hall, everything is messed up except for the schnitzels. That's how much the hall was. It was really a bizarre hall. The waiters, when they want to serve drinks on the tables, the waiter just throws the bottle to him, and you have to be careful, right? Well, in any case, how would a good guest at such a place say that it's a good place if he is now translating the reality within himself? When would I have such an event? When? And now he is a good guest. And then what does it mean? When he says, wait, if I were to have such an event, it means I really have no ability for anything. And what, after all, pushes me? To do something for my guests. And I invest everything I can to get the best hall I can for my guests. So suddenly you look at everything in reverse. Now let's go back home for a moment. If you come home and the house is messy, and you now look with your eyes, but they are not good eyes, and you interpret in reality and you say, wait, if the house is like this, when would it happen that my house would be like this? Because there was a mess, and I would sit with my legs crossed, and I would apologize and do nothing. So you now interpret this about your wife. Meaning, what did my wife do all day? She did nothing. That's why the house looks like this. But if you are in the opposite place, where you know that when you are at home, you give your all, and you run, and you help, and you are with the kids, and you... So when you see the house like this, what feeling goes through you? Wow, my wife must have had such a hard day. The kids must have been with her all day, and surely she is exhausted. But we don't always have the ability to step out of our own perspective and see things properly. I want to read you a passage from a book by Leah Lapid called Woman of Valor. There are several passages there that, in my opinion, correctly express this gap that sometimes exists between a man and a woman. She describes how after giving birth, she defines herself as the princess, the husband as the prince, and the child as the heir. This is how she describes it. The princess is at home all day with the heir, with the baby. They have many magical moments together. She can't stop breathing him in, inhaling that pure and perfect scent. And she looks in awe at his tiny little hands. A friend told her that she needs to trim his eyelashes, but she doesn't have the courage because everything about him is so tiny. She will ask the prince, her husband, to trim them because he has already scratched himself, and the hours pass. And even though she napped for about half an hour when he fell asleep, she is tired again, and by the afternoon she is completely exhausted. And he is crying again, and he is nursing again, but it doesn't help. And she holds him and presses on his belly, as they told her to do. Oh, but it doesn't help. And he cries, and she musters all her strength and patience, rocking and swaying. And she looks at the clock, and the evening is approaching, and she wants to take a shower, but she can't leave the heir alone, and she waits for the prince to come already, to take him for a moment. And another 15 minutes pass, and he was supposed to be back by now. And finally, the door opens, and there he stands, the prince. And instead of dropping everything and snatching the child from her to cover him with millions of kisses, telling her that she is the bravest princess of all Snow Whites, and covering her with 1,000,000 kisses too, and listening to everything she went through today, the wonderful things, and also how many times she cleaned poop, and how and where he spit up on her, the air. He just wants to sit quietly for a moment and eat something, because he had a tough day, a day at work for the prince. He wants to talk to her about what happened to him today, and she wants to listen and support him like she used to. But she waited so much for him to come, to be excited about this tiny creature that screamed at her all day, or at least just hold him so she could take a shower, maybe even eat something and talk to someone. Just hold him for a moment, she asks. He returns home, and the prince eats something small heated in the microwave. Then he takes the air from her and she goes to shower. After he holds the air in his arms, she sits down and eats something small alone. This is a description that happens to many families. Ben, Maya felt. Now, unfortunately, this gap often led to distress. Again, why did this cabin result happen? 2 reasons. The first reason we talked about earlier, chunks. But I need half an hour now to freshen up so we can have a good time. Don't push me to rush. Survive another 15 minutes. Let me eat something and then I'll speed up for you. But they don't talk. The other thing is through which lens I look at my partner. From my own misery, from my own tiredness, I just came back from an exhausting workday. It can't be that there's something more exhausting than me, or that I'm able to rise to a different perspective. And that's the essence of a relationship. It's about stepping out of yourself, stepping out of your own self, and that's truly a good eye. A good eye is not objectivity. A good eye is subjectivity in what you think, how you don't do well. That's the good eye. When Abraham, our forefather, goes and runs towards the guests, if he had a bad eye, what would he have said about these guests? What nuisances have arrived? Especially today. He would have quickly closed the door. The Midrash describes, how do they look? Like 3 Ishmaelites, dirty and so on. And what does Abraham do? He runs towards them. Why? Because his perspective is not poor me, that I've just had a circumcision and I'm in pain. No, there are people here who are more unfortunate than me. It's about taking your perspective out of your own comfort zone towards the other. This is the building of a relationship. Now, of course, it needs to be mutual. I want to do good for her, she wants to do good for me. Now, we are truly one path with each other. But think about it. Sometimes you ask a person, tell me, why do you love your wife? And he answers, what do you mean? Why do I love my wife? Why do you love your wife? What is it? Because she is good to me. What do you mean? What is she? What is it? I have fun with her. And she's an excellent mother to my children. And she spoils me. And she makes me good food. And who do you love? Yourself. How many times did you say me in that sentence? So who do you love here? Like the sketch by the Gesher. If a fisherman loves fish. In other words, who is at the center? And this is a very, very, very deep issue, but very fundamental, and it's the foundation of the good eye. Wanting to look at everything from the partner's perspective. And then everything turns around. Everything takes on a reverse dimension. You come home and the house is a world war, and you see how beautiful it is, because you know that there was probably a tremendous effort put in by your wife. How many times can men ask their wives, especially a wife who is at home with the kids, honestly, so what did you do today? It's not a question from an informative place. Honestly, I want to help you manage the time that but it can't be that much. You and I would do it, D. How can you be so tired? What, after all, you drive all day in the car with the air conditioning? What happened? It seems it has become a pattern. It has become a pattern. When the good eye is not developed, unfortunately what starts to take hold within the home is a more and more personal view of things. And then the gap continues to grow. You have an example, a very sweet story, told about a child in one of the educational institutions. A child about 6 or 7 years old. Something like that. And this child arrives at school. And that morning, the teacher doesn't arrive on time. They had a punctual teacher who arrives every day. At 8:00, he is in the classroom. He doesn't arrive. Well, the children are sitting. What happens at 8:05? The children are no longer sitting. What happens at 8:10? Joy and excitement in the classroom. Children are already on the tables, already. It was a celebration. It was chaos. At 8:15, the teacher enters with a look like this. Sit down. Well, everyone sits down. And then the child raises his hand. Yes, teacher. He gestures like this at the clock. What does this teacher do? His blood boils. Rude, get out of here. Expel him. Don't come back here without your parents. All right? The parents arrive. And then the mother tells the teacher the following story. Do you remember that my son used to be late every day? Right? I asked him many times, but it's because he's late. So what a nerve, he signals to me like this. Him? What is this? Even I, the teacher. And he signals to me. Who would I like to tell you about? In the last 3 weeks, we decided to take on a project so that he wouldn't be late anymore. We promised him that if he manages it, we put up a board like this on the fridge, marked each day. If he manages it, he gets a gift until he fails. And last night he received the watch as a gift. He refused to wear it. He said, I want my teacher to see the watch. This morning, he woke up at 6 o'clock. All he was waiting for was to get to school to show you the watch. When you entered the classroom, the first thing he did was stand up to show you the watch. El said, each side in the story was so absorbed in their own self that they couldn't see the other's self at all. The teacher was absorbed in his own self. What is his own self? I'm late, it's the opening. Come see. And from this perspective, he sees everything this way. Let's say he would be delayed by 15 minutes. It could be that he knows he's been late for about an hour and a half already, right? Instead of getting up at 6, that morning he woke up at 6:30, left late, there was traffic. He already knows. From 6:30, he knows he's late. It's in his gut. It's brewing. As a result, everything he sees now passes through this gut. He's standing in traffic, and there's someone looking at him. He says, what? Why is he looking at me like that? What happened? What, why, what? Does he even know what you are, who you are? He arrives at the school, and the principal is standing at the entrance. Just standing there to say good morning, and says to him, good morning. How does he hear the good morning? He doesn't hear good morning. He hears good morning. Even if the principal didn't say it, he's sure that now the principal knows he's late and is already noting it down for himself. Therefore, when he sees the child get up and do this, could it be something else? It's clear. Many times we are stuck within ourselves. Therefore, is goodness dependent on our ability to step outside of ourselves? Now, this is a process. It's also work. I came home from a busy day. I don't have the energy now to step outside of myself. So take a moment. Before you enter the house, take a deep breath. Stay in the car for another 5 minutes. Take a walk around the house. You've breathed. calm down. You can rise above yourself. Now enter the house. Now enter the house. Meanwhile, woman, you've been through a world war. The husband knocks on the door. He'll be delayed by 15 minutes. Now you, all the burden of the day is about to pounce on this delay. Wait, stop. Breathe, don't open the door for him. It's okay, let him knock again. It's okay, by the way, it's a rule. Even at your own home, you need to knock. You don't just enter, you knock. You shouldn't surprise your spouse either. It's okay to knock. Wait a moment, breathe. Rise above your perspective. Now open the door. Now you can look at your partner with a different perspective. Another thing is that often it prevents the view of a good eye. And what our sages teach us is that whoever disqualifies, why do they disqualify? In every eye, usually, one is messy, one is organized. Do you know this tension between the messy and the organized? Usually, the men are the organized ones, and the women are messy. Judging by the smiles, there isn't much agreement. So, are the men messy? It doesn't matter, usually. Now, does this create tension? Who usually suffers from whom? The messy one from the organized one, or the organized one from the messy one? The organized one from the messy one, right? From the messy person's perspective, is the organized one, it depends on how you look at it. Does the messy person mind when someone organizes for them? Yes. Yes? Who said yes? Why? Because you know the order of your chaos report. You run nicely, but I didn't say that. Thank you. I also said that. But I don't mind if someone organizes for me. It's okay. It will help me. Usually the messy person, okay. They go with their own mess. The organized person is bothered by it. Now, let's analyze this. There could be two reasons why the organized person is bothered by the mess. That is to say, for the messy person, it's nice. They'll organize for me. Excellent. One reason, the organized person is more structured in life. And they know that when there is order, things work as they should. Nothing gets lost. That's okay. It's smarter. When there's a mess, you lose things. You step on something. You forget to pay a fine. You pay a double fine. All sorts of things like that. When that's the case, the organized person will be bothered by the mess. But the mess won't drive them crazy. Sometimes there are organized people who, when they have a mess, they lose their temper. It unsettles them. Why? Because here something completely opposite is revealed. For the organized person, the mess was very, very bothersome. Not because the mess itself is bothersome, but because their own mess is bothersome. And the external mess reminds them of their internal mess. Therefore, if there is such an organized person who is bothered by the mess, they shouldn't say to their partner, listen, what's with this mess? Tidy it up. It's not reasonable like this. They should say, listen, my dear husband, I have a problem. Mess bothers me. It's my problem. Help me. And then everything turns around. A person is also much more willing to accept such a statement because it's not. I have the truth and you don't have the truth. And now from my truth, I'm coming to correct you. No, it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning, if I believe in diversity, even in such diversity. But for me, from my perspective, it's not okay. From your perspective, it's okay. And I'm asking you to leave and look at reality from my perspective. This gives rise to a positive outlook. To understand that many times the fault you see comes from within you. And everyone who faults with their own flaws. This is one of the biggest obstacles to a positive outlook, and we will further appreciate the depth of this matter that the sages spoke about. I want to briefly summarize and conclude with this. We began, firstly, with the importance of a positive outlook. And we explained that a positive outlook has several obstacles along the way. One obstacle is the belief that partners have divine insight, and therefore he should know. No, he doesn't need to know. Tell him, talk to each other. Secondly, many times we attribute very important things to unimportant matters. A birthday date, an anniversary, they make a big deal out of it. It's not significant. It's not the true expression. Remove all these things. Certainly, do not share with circles. Speaking ill of your partner is something that comes back like a big boomerang. You need to be very careful about this. Marriage is the holy of holies. My husband is the most wonderful thing. My wife is the most wonderful thing. That's it. Even jokingly, do not tell jokes about your wife or jokes about your husband. No, it is the holy of holies. This we will expand on further. Another thing, a good eye, is my ability to see things from her perspective, not from my perspective. And this is a process of working on resilience. And lastly, many times when I fail to do this, it's because I see the flaw that is within me. I see through her. The partners are a mirror of each other. And then whoever faults, faults in their own height. So may we merit, with God's help, as we approach Yom Kippur, to elevate the relationship to its true place, and truly to reach a holy perspective of cleaving to his wife and becoming one flesh, to this divine perfection we spoke about, that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It is one immense wholeness. It is not yet perfect, but it is whole. And it is within our power to turn our relationship into the most beautiful thing in the world, the most romantic, the most wonderful, the most sacred, the purest, with great and wonderful work. So let us be inscribed for a good and long life, and for great harmony within our relationship.